We are live, Karen, whenever you're ready.
I'm alive, huh? Okay. All right. Good evening, Restonians, and welcome to this special meeting, a public hearing on the budget. Reston Association on this Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. And this is a virtual meeting. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear from our public regarding what has been given to the public about on the budget so far. We've had 2 drafts and we're about to have a 3rd draft. So we welcome all your comments. And I'm glad to see a good number of people are with us tonight. So we have quorum. I believe 8 of our 9 board members are here. Director Mccarty, I know, has a cluster meeting tonight and will be arriving late. So with that, I would like to have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
So moved. I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. That was Bob and Jennifer, was it?
Tim and Jennifer.
Tim and Jennifer, thank you. All right. All those in favor? Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Sarah,
You're on mute, Karen.
I didn't touch my computer, I swear. Anyway, okay, so that carries. So the next item on the agenda is member comments, and these are member comments that are not related to the budget. So if anybody would like to make a member comment on a different topic, now is your chance. And I believe, Christina, all the people that signed up to speak are speaking as part of the public hearing, not member comments. Is that correct?
Correct. I have a list of about 10 people wanting to speak on the budget, but I did receive a message from Julie Bitzer wanting to speak. She says she has a member comment. So Julie, I'm trying to unmute.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I have the list of people that signed up to speak as part of the hearing.
You know, I actually just received a message that Julie wants to comment on the budget as well.
Okay.
So I don't have anybody that wants to speak for a regular member comment, but please raise your hand if you would like to do that.
Okay, so Julie, you are speaking as part of the public hearing and not a member comment, is that correct? You're on mute, so nod. Okay, thank you. All right, well, if there are no member comments, then we will move on to the public hearing portion of the evening. And I will start with the people that signed up in advance, and I'm going to take them in the order that Christina gave them to me on her list, and hope that's sort of a first come, first served basis. So to be fair for everybody. I do want to say, because I'm anticipating that we will have a lot of people wanting to participate tonight. So just so that we don't go on, until tomorrow morning with this, we do want to hear from everybody. But if your specific comments have already been stated, if you could just indicate that when it's your turn to speak, rather than reiterating the same kinds of comments, and just say, I agree with so-and-so, or I disagree, if that would be okay. Otherwise, it would be, I think we're going to try to adhere to the 3-minute rule for individuals. If you were speaking on behalf of an organization, 5 minutes. So with that, the first one on my list is John Robinson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Robinson. I live at 2360 Generation Drive. I understood that it was recently deferred from the 2022 budget, but I'd like to lend my support to the pickleball resurfacing and lighting project at Barton Hill. And that comes on the wake of nearly a 40-year resident, but took up pickleball recently, completed the beginner course through Reston Association, enjoyed it. I asked, is there an intermediate course? And was told no, they have one court dedicated to lessons right now, and they just don't have the capacity to expand. I played with some members who lived in South Reston, and we were going to try to get together after work, and we learned there was no lighted court in South Reston. So we'd just like to lend my support for that. Probably not the place for the 2022 budget hearing, but if I could get that on the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nancy Rogers is next. You are on mute or need to be unmuted. There you go.
I am. Hi. So my name's Nancy Rogers. I live on 1930 Upper Lake Drive in South Reston. And I'm also speaking in support of the Barton Hill Courts renovation. I did put together a statement, but I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't read it. But I did want to say that I also recently took up pickleball. I've been playing for about 9 months. I've done the lessons. I do drop-in. I was in the recent Reston pickleball tournament. I typically play 3 times a week. I've introduced the game to a lot of people, and a lot of them are now playing somewhat regularly. And I will say that being at Autumnwood, we are definitely over capacity, and that we really feel that. There's quite a few problems with the overcrowding. Number one is that a lot of the new players feel intimidated because the courts are crowded. And when they are crowded, we go to a rotation system, and that can be very intimidating for new players. I've heard that at sometimes we're up to like 40 to 70 people that are waiting to play, all vying for 16 places to play on the pickleball court. So I just want to iterate that pickleball is a growing sport. It's only going to get more popular. A lot of people are playing. It's all ages. And I just think for accessibility, we need to have more places to play. And certainly South Reston is an area that makes sense to add more courts, particularly lighted courts, just so that more people can participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Margaret Catronio. You're on mute, Margaret. There you go.
Good. My name is Margaret Catronio. I live at 1520 Autumn Ridge Circle in Reston. I've been a homeowner since 2002. I am both an avid tennis player and an avid pickleball player. I'm speaking in favor of the proposed upgrades to Barton Hill courts, including the much needed resurfacing of those tennis courts, the installation of LED lighting, which is really critical for night play for tennis as well as pickleball, and the line chain painting and interchangeable nets and anything else that's really needed to provide everyday access to tennis and especially pickleball. There is a rapidly growing need. I think the others have already addressed it for lighted courts for night play for both tennis and pickleball, especially in South Reston. The Autumnwood courts are wonderful in responding to the need, but they are at maximum use capacity. I left the pickleball courts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. All the courts were full of players, including the residual courts, and there were players waiting to get on the courts. That was 3 o'clock. That was before the night people even came. Tennis and pickleball are entrees to our community, and they really enhance our community building efforts across all age groups. In the 2 years I've been playing pickleball, I've played primarily with Restonians who are totally new to me. As the over 55 population grows, it's clear that pickleball is becoming both a physical and a social activity of choice. Actually, just keeping score in pickleball is a great exercise for mental acuity. While tennis remains very popular for day and night play, the rapid growth of pickleball is already outstripping our limited capacity for play. It is really important for us in Reston to stay ahead of this growth curve. So in the spirit of Reston's commitment to live, work, and play, I urge you to fully support the proposed Barton Hill upgrades to expand and enhance the use of our facilities for tennis and pickleball. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Margaret. Next is Gabriel Hollies.
Hollies. I live at 11310 Myrtle Lane on the south side of Reston as well. I've been playing pickleball on the Autumnwood courts since they first opened up. And I would reiterate what some of the people said in terms of there's a lot of people who come after work who try to play, and those courts are very, very full between like 4 and 8 p.m. I don't know about it before 3, but it sounds like it's still busy even before that point. So in terms of need, there's definitely a need for more courts, especially lit courts, because there's especially for people who are working full time still, even in the under 55 group. Lit courts make a huge difference because otherwise, especially this time of year, there's just no way to play outside without lit courts. And it's a long drive to go at 5 o'clock all over through Reston traffic all the way to the north side every day. So it'd be great to have courts on the south side here. And there have been comments about how there are lots of courts in Fairfax County based on the survey, but those surveys don't take into account the difference between playing over a tennis net versus on a pickleball net directly. That it makes a huge difference. That's why the courts Autumnwood are so popular, is because they are dedicated pickleball courts and they have pickleball nets. So even if we just had rollaway nets at the Barton Hills location, that would also be a huge benefit because it's just not quite the same if you're playing over the wrong size net. It's different height, different width. It's close, but it's not quite the same. So yeah, I'm speaking in support for lit courts at Barton Hill, and saying that we definitely need more, especially for pickleball, because it's the only option right now is Autumnwood, and it's great to have it at Elston's location. One other note: someone else commented in one of the documents about how they're not sure if the courts are even being monitored. I can say that the court monitors show up almost every day that I'm there, especially during the peak hours, to come by and just make sure everyone has passes, and they do a great job. They know most people on a first name basis. They explain the process to how to sign up if they don't have a pass already. So there is monitoring being done, and they do a great job with it. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollies. Next is Hayes Mccarty.
All right, I'm Hayes Mccarty. I live on 1942 Upper Lake Drive, and I'm a 50-year resident of Reston. I'm also speaking in support of the complete renovation of the Barton Hill tennis courts to include 4 pickleball courts. As most of you know, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America, and I think, and I'm trying not to repeat what everybody else has said, but the Autumnwood complex is terrific. And it's been a big success, but it's totally overcrowded during prime times. And what Nancy said earlier is absolutely true. I mean, you go over there during prime times and there are 40 to 70 people waiting in line to play on 4 courts, which can only accommodate 16. So I think it's, and also the whole South Reston issue has already been covered as well. There's really no courts in South Reston. The Glade court, or the Colts Neck courts have 2 tennis courts, and you use the tennis nets, but that's a pretty poor substitute for trying to meet the demand we're talking about. And then finally, I think supporting all the arguments that have been made so far, that RA's own Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee did a detailed study of Reston's tennis and pickleball facilities, and they recommended that the highest priority facility improvement is the total renovation of the Barton Hill courts, which includes the lighting and the 4 pickleball courts. So I think the board should certainly take that into strong consideration when they do their budget review for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarty. Kathleen Driscoll. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Driscoll. I live at 2098 Cobblestone Lane here in Reston. And this evening, I speak on behalf of the Reston Garden Club. With a more than 50-year history, the Reston Garden Club has worked to preserve and enhance the flora and fauna on Reston Association property, in private residence, at public buildings by funding and planting numerous trees, shrubs, and flowers, including recently a wildflower native plant garden at Lake House. In addition, we have been publicly acknowledged with the Best of Reston Award. Needless to say, we value all things environmental, particularly Reston's natural areas and resources. As I begin, I'd like to thank each of you for the untold hours and unpaid time that you have devoted to this community in preparation and attendance at meetings, and for wrestling with extremely challenging issues like the budget before you. This budget will impact our lives and it will embody our values, because the budget is the real concrete way community values are reflected. How the board allocates and spends money tells each of us and all those who observe us what we value, what we hold dear. Reston Association has always valued its environment, its open space, its lakes, its natural areas. Under RA management, through the Senior Advisor for Environmental Resources, environmental education programs and outreach efforts were offered and used to guard the very woods and meadows, which among other things, attract prospective residents and sustain our property values, which in turn directly affecting future budgets. This evening, our request would be to fund a senior leadership team position, Director of Natural Resources. As the supervisor, this person would coordinate a team of RA resource management and environmental education staff capable of dealing with the environmental issues facing us. This position should be given equal recognition and authority with other RA departmental directors. Please don't think of this request as merely a nice to have. Given what's happening in Glasgow, its potential importance reaches far beyond our Reston community. Finally, in closing, I'm reminded that tomorrow is November 11th, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those in uniform who have served or are currently serving our country. Their service is a credit to the nation and invaluable to all of us. And folks, having sat in your seat, I don't recall ever being chilly during any of the budget discussions. In fact, there was always more than enough heat to go around. I thank you for this opportunity to address you this evening and wish you good luck with this conversation.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next is Renee West.
Karen, can I quickly interrupt for a minute? Kathleen's comments, can we address it? Because we do have the environmental director already in the budget. That is a board motion.
Yes.
You want to say a few words on that?
I assumed that, Kathleen, you were aware of that. That is in the current draft of the budget.
Christine, can you unmute
I
her
just-
again?
I'm
Thank you.
I think I'm unmuted. I realize that it's there. That doesn't mean it won't get cut.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, Renee West.
I'm not actually seeing Renee as of
Okay. We'll circle back to her if she joins.
Karen, just to reassure Kathleen, it's a board motion, so I don't think it's getting cut. So the environmental position was a board motion that voted by majority. So it will not be cut.
We haven't voted on the final budget yet, but all right, let's move on. All right, we'll circle back to Renee West if she joins. Next is Carolyn, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name. Petch or Petchy?
Karen, I'm seeing a Carolyn's iPhone.
Yes. Are you able, can you see me now?
I'm not, oh, yeah, there's a chat in front of you, but I believe we can see you, yes, and we can
Yes.
certainly hear you.
Sorry. I'm Carolyn Petchy, and I live at 2224 Springwood Drive in South Reston. And I am also speaking in support of the lighting. I'm a fairly new resident to Reston, and I'm just thrilled with the community that has already been established here between the tennis and the pickleball. I've been a lifelong resident or a player of tennis, but just recently converted to pickleball, and I love it. I work full time though, and when I come here I'm actually at Autumnwood right now. The courts are fairly full, and I just want to express my interest in also having more courts available at night to alleviate the overcrowding here at Autumnwood. And our instructors at the Reston Association have done a great job in promoting this sport. However, now we can definitely tell that because of these nice courts here and the expanded surging interest in pickleball, that extra lighted courts are extremely well needed, especially in South Reston. So thank you for listening to me. And I don't really have too much more to add than what everyone else has already expressed. But thank you for listening, and decide we'll be in support, but I would extremely be delighted if this happened. Thank you for listening. That's it.
Next is Andrew Mclaughlin.
Hello, I'm Andrew Mclaughlin. I live at 2505 Red Clover Court in Reston. It's over near Soapstone and Lawyers. And I've lived in Reston since 1996, and in this location on the south side since 2001. I've been an avid tennis player over that time. And I definitely want to add my support for the Barton Hill renovation and the addition of the lights there. Love all the pickleball comments, and I really look forward to playing that sport soon. With regards to tennis, one of the key things on the south side is there's really just two locations that have lights, and they're of the old variety, Shadowwood and Glade. Glade's out of commission because you have to shut it down so it doesn't freeze over as clay courts over the winter. And then lessons happen often at Shadowwood. So you really only end up with 3 lit courts a lot of the time on the south side of Reston. And it really would add to the recreational quality to add the additional courts at Barton Hill to be lit and then to be resurfaced. And the type of lighting they do is really especially helpful for someone like me where my eyes are a little challenged at night. They're really very helpful. And I've noticed that when they were installed at North Hills and at Hook Road, they really worked well and did not result in any issues with the neighborhood, even though those lights were a lot closer to housing. And let's see, one other thing that is interesting about the Barton Hill site is it has a lot of buffer around it. So you have a street in front with office buildings on one side, you have a street on the other with a soccer field on that side. And then you have a buffer of like 100 yards or so of trees and a park between that facility and any lights and any houses. So I think it's, compared to some other places like it was mentioned, Upper Lakes, it's really ideal for adding lights there. So I would just really strongly encourage the board to support the Barton Hill renovation and the lighting there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Renee West yet, Christina?
I am not seeing her, no.
Okay. All right. That is it for the people who signed up in advance. So we are now open to anyone who would like to speak. Please, do the hand, raise your hand signal in the, or in person there, Julie. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Julie Bitzer, and I live at 2020 Peppermint Court, Reston, Virginia 20191. I am commenting not only as an individual, but also with some knowledge as being a past RA board member and current chair of the Parks Recreation Advisory Committee. A little history I'd like to share with those is that a number of years ago, when the board was making a decision on funding Autumnwood as a dedicated pickleball facility to convert some tennis courts to pickleball, Barton Hill was also on that same list and to be considered at the same time. The board chose at that point in time to only fund Autumnwood and to defer Barton Hill's pickleball work and court resurfacing, primarily to see whether or not pickleball was actually a sport that was going to take off, that there would be interest in our community for those to play pickleball. And in fact, as you've heard tonight, many folks have commented on how pickleball is a growing sport across the country. It's not just in our area. It is a cross-generational, and it is a cross-community sport. So unlike a pool, which is really your local neighbors and who can walk there, our tennis and pickleball facilities are meant for a cross-community support. And I think that that's very important as we think about whether or not to fund Barton Hill. It's been delayed for several years. The RA staff did investigate and consult with a recognized pickleball organization as to where might pickleball be best placed throughout Reston. Autumnwood obviously was one of the first sites, but the second site was Barton Hill. And as a previous member commented, it is a site that is rather out in the open. Part of it's from the street side and does have a buffer of trees and is a fair distance away from other homes. So I think that ought to be considered. One of the things that we are finding being shared with not only RA staff, but also our Parks Recreation Advisory Committee is the amount of interest that is happening across our local area, whether it be Arlington County, Montgomery County, or even Chantilly, where we look at what causes our members, our association members, to have to leave Reston to go find recreation elsewhere. And there's a number of studies and surveys that are being done with regard to pickleball. Lighting, I'd like to address that for a moment. The lighting that is put in today is completely different than what has been in the past for us for many years. Besides the cost savings, the lighting technology allows for light to shine downward and not be diffuse and in other people's face. Daylight savings in the summer allows people to play well into the evening, but they don't have that option in the wintertime, as we suddenly have found ourselves, at 5, 6 o'clock to be in the dark once again. And having some lighting at some of our facilities across the community would assist people in being able to take advantage. I know we talk a lot about pickleball. I know I'm almost 3 minutes, but I want to make the point that there are a lot of tennis players who have been waiting for the resurfacing of Barton Hill because the quality of play for our tennis players, as well as our pickleball players, is, I'd say, substandard, and that ought to be considered given that it's been pushed off for quite some time. So I do want you to consider that as well. And lastly, as Prac Chair, pickleball was brought to us in the summer, one of our first meetings. We spent an extensive amount of time listening and researching and did make a formal recommendation to the board that they absolutely put Barton Hill on the 2022 budget plan and not be deferred or delayed beyond that. And with that, thank you very much for your time. And I appreciate the opportunity to comment on an amenity that is important to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, I see Jim Cook has his hand up.
Yes, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. I'm Jim Cook. I'm in 1993 Lakeport Way, and I'm a 40-year Reston resident and tennis player. Andrew stole much of what I was going to say. He was spot on, I believe, with tennis here in South Reston. We've been maligned for a number of years. We have a choice of Shadowwood or Glade. And as Andrew noted, Glade is out of commission oftentimes in the wintertime because of the clay. And Barton Hill is in disrepair. You can't play tennis there. We end up relegated to Shadowwood and possibly Glade at night, but there's team tennis, there's lessons that take precedence, and it's very hard to play. So all in favor for Barton Hill renovation. The lighting is great. If it's anything like Hook Road, welcome it strongly. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any other people? Yes, I see is it Mr. Atwater raising his hand? You're on mute. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I really thank you also for taking this up and taking it seriously. I would propose, following on the comments of somebody who laid out the land at the Barton Hill location, that rather than just convert some of the existing court space to pickleball use, that you consider moving and actually expanding the pad to the east where there is just nothing there. It's just unoccupied space. And rather than just try and keep up with where we are currently in terms of demand, try to get ahead of the curve a little bit, because it's pretty obvious that this is going to get more and more popular and create more and more demand. So looking at the topography of this location, it seems there's room for expansion of courts, not just reconditioning and repainting of existing courts. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think pickleball's the way to go.
Thank you. And did I for the record, I don't believe I heard you state your address, but we do need that.
Thank you very much. Yes, 11038 Thrush Ridge Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Ginger Gottlieb.
Hi, I'm Ginger Gottlieb. My address is 11715 Stillbrook Court, Reston, Virginia. That's in the Hamlet area in South Reston off of Glade. I would really recommend that Barton Hill be improved in next year instead of deferred. The demand between the tennis folks and the popularity of pickleball, really, we need more space and we need more time that having the lighting would allow us. So we should all be thrilled at how popular tennis is here and how popular pickleball is and how it's growing. And we need to, keep up with that demand as it's occurring. We don't want to discourage people from playing tennis or discourage people from getting into pickleball because we don't have the resources. That's really my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands? Digital or real? Well, I see somebody. Para 1. Oh, that's Tammy, of course.
Thank you.
I should remember that.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Number one,
Name and address, please.
2503 Foxcroft Way. 100% agree with Kathleen on the necessity of a senior director, and I'm glad that has been highly considered by the board. I did not know that. Number two, there has been some chat on Nextdoor regarding why in the world are we having another construction manager, and sorry, I don't know the title, but Chris's assistant. And I want to explain to all who are on this meeting, Reston Association has a massive improvement project and refurbishing project with almost all of our major amenities coming up in the very near future over the next several years. One person cannot possibly price and manage all of those projects. So that position is absolutely necessary. And my third comment is, bless everybody who loves pickleball. I think I totally support you, but I think it is time for Reston Association to bite the bullet and send out a postcard, since you don't have contact information except mailing, to every member household and find out real data of how many people, does anybody in your home play tennis and buy an RA tennis pass? Ditto pickleball. Do you play both? That way we will get data. These are massively expensive amenities to keep up, just as the pools are. And we really don't know how many. This is a very vocal group. Before, years ago, I can remember when we had a tennis group marching in, and a lot of that tennis group, by the way, wasn't from Reston, but they were buying legitimate passes. So that needs to be considered as well. But I think we need real data when we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of member money on a particular amenity. And having said that, we come to the pools, and I don't know how we solve that same conundrum. That's a weather-related thing. The pools are only used for a short period, whereas the courts can be used almost all year round if our weather is going to become milder. So those are my comments. Thank you, board members who are working so hard, and staff on figuring out this budget. It is a tough call, but I would really like to get much more concrete data on how many users we have who are members of Reston Association and who are paying dues. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Anybody else wanting to speak? I don't see any hands. We did. Tim, is that you're not raising your hand? You're just pushing buttons or something? I don't know. Okay. All right. I know that one of our directors had put in the chat a few minutes ago about we needed to clarify that the Lake Newport tennis courts do have non-permanent pickleball courts. Again, in North Reston. I don't know. I don't know if anyone on the call can speak to the usage there. I know it's a very heavily used. Those courts are heavily used for tennis, so I don't know. But I think that Director Juszczyk wanted that put out there for those who are unaware that there is a rolling pickleball net and pickleball stripes at Newport. Again, I don't know anything about the usage there. Mr. Mccarty, perhaps you know something about that?
Yes, I asked that exact question to Rob Tucker this morning, and the answer is there are currently 4 courts at Autumnwood, the 2 tennis courts at Autumnwood that aren't designated pickleball courts, do have lines and do have nets, but they're currently only available on very rare occasions for pickleball. They're primarily tennis courts, and there's signs on the court saying that they're for pickleball use. From time to time, those signs are Rob, or if a staff member is over there, they're able to allow pickleball there to alleviate some of the crunch on the 4 designated courts. As far as there also are 8 courts or 4 tennis courts that have lines and temporary nets at North Point. And those courts are basically reserved for lessons, for pickleball lessons by the staff. And there's signs on those courts that say they're not available for regular pickleball use.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask one last time if is anybody else wishing to speak? And if not,
Madam Chair,
yes, Director Mooney.
just so there are no misunderstandings, I want to clarify my understanding of the vote that the board took in July concerning the Environmental Services Director. So I've listened 3 times to the videotape, and I've spoken to the person who made that motion, Sarah Silverage de Souza, and the motion was to approve that position as a member of the senior leadership team, and it did not. We did not vote at that time to establish a separate department because, as I understand, Sarah can speak for herself, but she did not want to intrude upon how the CEO would want to organize that environmental work. We did, however, vote to appoint an environmental services member as a member of the senior leadership team, and the acting CEO has put that into the budget.
Thank you, John. Yes, Director Dowling.
Respectfully, John, you left out a very important word, and the word is director. And the motion included very clearly the establishment of the position, not only as part of the senior leadership team, but as a director, to be a co-equal director with all of the other directors, and to have adequate authority within RA and adequate staff within RA to carry out the duties of a director. Thank you.
Karen, can I say something?
Thank you. I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, this may be a discussion for our next meeting. I think it would be more appropriate for that, the meeting immediately following this, since this is a public hearing on the budget.
It was my motion, so if I could just address it. It is absolutely a director. My motion definitely said director. I don't, maybe I'm not following the backstory on why that's being questioned or discussed, but 100% it was director level, part of the senior leadership team. So I think both directors, Mooney and Dowling, are correct. If there are any nuances, just to clarify, 100% director.
Thank you.
And if I didn't say director, I apologize. I meant to say director.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Any other public comments on the budget? Yes, Farnham.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Just a quick one. I just want to know, just a question. Do we know when was the last time we actually had a survey or any type of questionnaire that was sent out to all the members, either digitally or printed, to figure out what members are actually using, what members what members' interests are, and how they want the money to be spent?
Could you be a little more specific? Are you talking about with regard to recreational facilities or just in general?
I would say most likely in general, and because we have members, we do have, as another person mentioned here, we might have a lot of people. We might have like multiple people coming up to a meeting like this and specifying, hey, we want tennis, for example. We want more tennis courts, for example, just an example. But I'm wondering if RA has had any questionnaire or a survey that was sent out to all the members to figure out what members want, how they want the money to be distributed.
I can tell you that in 2019, there was a brand and marketing survey that went out to all the members, just about what they would like to see in more of or less of, or new things. Larry, if you want to chime in on this, but that was the last, and I know that Laura and her department did a survey not too long ago, but I think that was more targeted towards recreational facilities.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that, Karen. You're correct that the last one that was, I guess you could call community-wide, was the brand and market survey. Prior to that, the George Mason University, we sent out one that was specific to recreation facilities and programming. That one, despite a whole lot of effort, while we did get a statistically valid response, in terms of the numbers of returns, it was a little skewed in terms of who did respond, which I think was also somewhat the case with the brand and market study. So the difficulty with community-wide surveys is getting, and I know John Mooney's very keen on this, is how do you get enough respondents to get rid of the inherent bias of those who respond? It's very, very difficult to do that. I am a proponent of doing it. The last one prior to those two, the last one we did was in 2005 with the PROS study. And I know it's something that I think the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, has recommended as well, if not recently, certainly in the fairly recent past. I think it's a great idea. And I will say, and I know Farnham, that, and I think Jordan made this comment as well in the chat, the difficulty with digital surveys is that those also have inherent bias. And I'm not a survey professional. I know there's a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee recently appointed who has quite amount of experience with this, and I think we should tap into her experience to explore it further.
Thank you, Larry. I hope that helps answer your question, Farnham. And, in addition to formal surveys, we have the public hearings on the budget. This is the second one we've had, and we have our listening sessions. So there are many opportunities for members to let the board know what they would like to see. Okay, any other comments? Going once, going twice. Okay, if there are none, I would thank you all for attending tonight. And input from members in all forms is very important, obviously, as we make decisions, not just on the budget, but throughout the year. So I appreciate your being with us tonight. So if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Yes, Director Dowling. And a
Second.
second from Director Mooney.
Second, yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Can I just remind the members that we do have another meeting at 8 o'clock that is still on the budget? Thank
I
you.
was about to do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Before we officially adjourned.
Yeah, before we cut off. Yes.
I had a
Yes.
question.
And it's the same, you can just stay with us. It's not a separate Zoom log or
Karen?
anything. Yes, Mike.
Karen, I'm sorry, I had a question. Why was this a public meeting on the budget and you told people not to comment on the budget? I'm confused.
No, I told people during member comments. that
Right.
Those were member comments not related to the budget. The public hearing was all related to the budget.
I'm confused then. Didn't we just have a public hearing related to the budget?
Yes.
Okay, but you told people not to make comments on the budget. You told them to make general member comments.
During the member comment portion.
Okay, so
And
we're
then
about
we
to,
had the public hearing portion.
okay, and we're
And
about
that's what we've been having all night. I just made the distinction between member comments, which we're required to have at all meetings, and the public hearing portion.
But aren't we about to adjourn the budget meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'm thoroughly confused, but if
The
everybody
public
else-
hearing, we're adjourning the public hearing. And then at 8 o'clock, we're starting a special board meeting to discuss the budget.
Right, and that's when people should comment on the budget?
Well, we have to have.
If they haven't already, if anybody new is joining at 8 o'clock, they can comment on the budget, but we just had the public hearing on the budget for.
But you told
member
people not to,
comments.
but you told people not to comment on the budget.
No, Mike, I didn't. I told people that during the member comment portion of this budget hearing, public budget hearing, those comments were to be for other than the budget. But the public hearing was solely for comments on the budget.
I guess I missed that public hearing then. Okay, I'm confused. Okay, it's all right. As long as everybody else gets it.
This was the public hearing.
Wasn't much of a hearing, I guess. So I misunderstood. It's fine. Go ahead. Thank you. I'm sorry to delay things.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe
Don't
someone
worry
else
about it.
can
Don't worry
clarify.
about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. Not worth it. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So
All
I
those
do it.
Karen, did you want to just make an announcement in case somebody is confused like Mike, and if they were holding their member comments, that they're free to do it now? Just in case somebody else was confused the same way Mike was.
the member comment portion is over, but you are free to make a member comment when we start our next meeting at 8 o'clock. And that can be on any topic you want.
Madam Chair, may I take a swing at it?
Sure.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay. If anybody has comments on the budget that is present right now, please raise your hand. If you have a general comment about any other aspect of how RA functions, whether or not we timely answer the phones, or whether or not emails are returned, that would be appropriate for the member comment portion of the next board meeting, which is scheduled to occur in 6 minutes. Does anyone have a comment that has not been called on yet? Ms. Bitzer, I believe you already had a bite at the apple on member comments at this point, but you're certainly welcome to a discussion of the chair.
Well, and we have a motion to adjourn on the floor too. So can we need to vote on that.
We need to either vote on it or withdraw it, but if you have a pending person that wishes to comment on the budget, and there's only one, the chair has discretion to allow her to speak again.
I will ask Ms. Bitzer if the comment she wishes to make can wait until the next meeting at 8 o'clock. Otherwise, I have to withdraw my motion to adjourn.
Ms. Bitzer informs me she can wait until the next meeting.
You did say that? Okay. Thank you. All right. Any more discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Anybody opposed? All right, the motion carries, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. And all of you are welcome.